And here I am. Oh boy, where are we? Turn that down a little. Get my chat up. But I want to see the stream. Also, I just want to make sure everything is working. Oops, sorry. Get my chat up. But I want to see the stream. Why is this happening? I've already done this. Also, I just want to make sure everything is. All right. I don't need to configure this thing. I've already done it like 4 times. Oh great, is it fucked up now? Jesus. Where is my letterbox? Okay. Great. Alright, well I gotta kill the game and start again. Awesome, love that. PC version of MK11 has been problematic to say the least. But we shall get it again, I swear. Alright. I think this time we got it, maybe? Maybe not? Alright. Alright. I'm going to play some Mortal Kombat. I kind of want to mess with some of the new characters. Oh, there we go. Practice. Yeah, so I bought the DLC with the new characters, but I have yet to try any of them. I'm super interested in Rain, so I want to check him out.
Shang Tsung's Island Ruins.
Yeah, so I guess the reason I'm here, because I wasn't planning on doing a stream tonight. I'm bored. It's New Year's. Oh, this is not gonna be fun. God forbid they give me the PlayStation controls. So why be why? No. This is gonna be difficult. At least his special moves are easy. Alright. Okay. That was dope. Alright. It's pretty sweet. That's cool. Alright. Oh, now might not be the best time to learn some characters. Pretty sweet though. Why is this not working? Alright. Gotta learn some chains here. Alright. I mean, it seems pretty sweet. I think there's a training for each character. Maybe I'll try Reigns. Combos. That's cool. Alright. That's pretty sweet. Alright, what else we got? Alright, that's not gonna fly. So why don't we go do some towers, and I'm gonna talk about the movies of 2020, or at least the ones I saw. I obviously still have a lot to see. There were, you know, it was a weird year for movies. There wasn't a ton in the theater, obviously, and like half the movies that I was looking forward to didn't actually come out this year, so but yeah, I have a top 10 list, and as always it's incomplete because I didn't see everything, and even the stuff I want to see, I still haven't gotten around to seeing everything yet. So the list is always in flux, and actually I need to add something onto here that I actually just finished watching, and it's not going to be in the top 10, but I am putting it on my favorite of the year because I did actually like the movie, which may come to a surprise.
I do what I must to protect Katana. That includes attacking Jax.
Okay. So I'm going to attempt to do this while I play some Mortal Kombat. Whoop. But yeah, just kind of playing through the character towers so I can unlock some dope costumes with the characters I like playing as. But yeah, so, you know, 2020, because of COVID, it's a pretty weird year for movies. You know, this was actually a year where I saw more like movies that I hadn't seen before from previous years. I kind of used this as a mop-up year. But I do have a list, and I do have more than 10 on my list, but generally, you know, the top 10s are the ones that matter. But yeah, so I am just gonna kind of go through. I gotta pull up, and I guess I will talk about, there are 4 other movies that are on my favorite list, so I have my list on Letterboxd, the app, or letterboxd.com, and Letterboxd is the best social media, and you know, that's so you can see my full list on there and kind of see what I rated and reviewed the movies and stuff. But the first thing I will say is, out of the 2020 movies I've seen, and I've seen most of like kind of the big movies. I'm sure there's a lot of hidden gems that I haven't seen. I did not rank one movie 5 stars this year, and I feel like probably some of the better movies just are the ones that missed because of COVID. You know, a lot of studios probably wanted to hold their best stuff for theaters, and obviously Warner Brothers has announced that they're gonna start just like dumping stuff onto HBO Max and in theaters at the same time. But you know, a lot of 4-star movies. I think actually almost every movie in my top 10 is a 4-star movie. Maybe one of them not. I have to look at the ratings, but you know, I'm pretty liberal with my ratings. You know, as long as I like the movie, or if I thought the movie was successful at what it was trying to do, it can get a 4 out of me. If I think a movie is just okay, then that's when I get a 3-star. But if I can feel anything from it, yeah, I want to say they all got 4 stars. But so my entire list is 14 movies. Those are the movies from 2020 that I watched that I like. So when I like a movie, I just add it on to my favorite of the year list. Because for me, my list is more just a journal of everything I liked in the year, and not necessarily like, oh, these are my favorites, but I rank the top 10. So I will get to the top 10, but I do want to talk about my last 4, because one of them I literally just watched, like, finished watching like 15-20 minutes ago. But yeah, you know, even though it was a weird year for movies, there was still definitely some good stuff out there. And I guess I'll just start with the movie that I literally just watched because it's the most fresh in my mind. But I watched New Mutants, or The New Mutants as it's called. You know, I am actually a big fan of the Fox X-Men franchise, and I think that's not like a controversial thing to say, but I definitely feel like the narrative for that franchise has changed over the last few years, and I can actually pinpoint to exactly when it happened, and that was X-Men Apocalypse. And I am on record of, I do not think X-Men Apocalypse is a bad movie. It is a flawed movie, for sure, as, you know, a lot of movies have flaws. But it definitely has the burden of being the X-Men movie that came out after Days of Future Past, which I think, in my opinion, is the best X-Men movie. And I don't know if, I feel like it's considered at least in the top 3 if you're an X-Men movie fan. But I remember when Apocalypse came out, and it wasn't as good as Days of Future Past, and it, you know, I will definitely admit that they kind of butchered the character of Apocalypse, but I still think that movie is, like, decent. I would still rank it in the upper half of the X-Men franchise. You know, it is a pretty spotty franchise overall. Like, they've never had, like, a solid run of movies. There's always, like, oh, a couple good ones, and then, like, a bad one, or, like, a really good one and a couple bad ones, or whatever. But, I don't know, so I kind of like Apocalypse. I will defend Apocalypse, but I will also acknowledge its flaws. But when, you know, Apocalypse came out, it was immediately, I feel like I saw the narrative turn into, oh, it's over, they've ruined it, just give it to Disney, blah, blah, blah. And because what had changed was the Spider-Man deal had happened with Sony and Disney. You know, and we now lived in a world where that was possible, where studios could work together and share characters and everything. And, you know, I think even if Apocalypse was better than it was, people still would have been like, oh, well, I just want everything to be a part of the MCU, so, like, just let Disney have it. And I get it, but I disagree with it. And, you know, it kind of doesn't matter now, but it was just, like, weird to me. Like, first off, I was like, well, Apocalypse wasn't that bad, so I don't think, like, you should be telling a studio to just, like, abandon something that was still making money. Like, even Apocalypse made some money. You know, this conversation was more understandable by the time Dark Phoenix came out, which even Dark Phoenix I don't think is the worst X-Men movie. Again, it's a movie with problems and has a lot more problems than Apocalypse does. Like, it's definitely towards the lower end, but I don't think Dark Phoenix is the worst X-Men movie, and I guess that all just kind of leads into what I'm about to say about New Mutants, but I thought New Mutants was fine. You know, it's not amazing. It's not great. Is it good? I think kind of. Like, it's an okay movie, and I still enjoy an okay superhero movie more than like your average film, just because like I love superhero movies, and like I don't really feel bad about it, and I don't think anybody should. But you know, the movie clearly went through a lot, and it's making, like, we've all heard some of the stories. Like, there's definitely a documentary to be written about that movie. But I enjoyed New Mutants. It's got problems. It's a little simple in an era where superhero movies can be so much more than what a movie like New Mutants is. But I love that it plays in its own genre. Like, it's a superhero movie, it's a horror film. It doesn't play it safe. Like, the main love interest in the movie is between two girls, and you know, I didn't know that was a part of the movie, and I wasn't expecting it, but I like how they just kind of don't treat it like it's a big thing. It's just, nah, these characters have feelings for each other, and that's fine. I like seeing some of those characters on the screen. Like, I like Magic as a character, and I thought, is it Anya Taylor-Joy? Is that the actress's name? I can't remember. Actually, I have it right here. I can click it up. I thought she was good. Yeah, Anya Taylor-Joy. Like, I thought the whole cast actually was pretty good. And, you know, the things that are bad about the movie are the things like behind the scenes, and hey, they spelled one of the creators' names wrong. They did some of the characters wrong from their comic book counterparts. But as somebody who kind of doesn't have like a lot of knowledge about those characters, I didn't know that, and it didn't, like, in the movie it's kind of not really a thing, and like, as far as what is presented, I enjoyed the film enough to put it on my list of, hey, these were movies from 2020 that I like, but I didn't love it, you know. You know, it's currently, I've actually been ranking all of the movies that I saw this year. Normally I only rank the top 10, but since I only have 14 movies on my list, I've just been ranking everything, and currently it's sitting at the bottom, but I definitely don't think it's gonna stay there. That's just because it's the most recent movie I watched. But New Mutants, I think it's fine. I think it's a real shame the way the Fox stuff worked out. But, you know, it is what it is. There's nothing we can do about it now, and now Disney has it, and that's just the way it's gonna be, so I guess that's all there really is to say. I think check out New Mutants and go in with an open mind. It's not gonna blow you away, but it is totally fine. So the next movie on my list, which I think I've talked about at some point, actually I talked about on one of my episodes of my podcast for Shocktober, which the Shell Film Podcast, give it a shout there. But on the podcast, every October I watch horror films and review them, and I reviewed this movie, and it's a movie called Relic, and it was really good. And it, you know, as I was adding movies onto my top 10 list, it originally was in the top 10, but then as I saw, which I guess you could say about every movie on this list except New Mutants, because it's the only one I added later. But Relic is a film of, it's kind of hard to describe. It's a, oh shit, I'm trying to talk here and I'm not paying attention. It's a movie about a mom and a daughter taking care of their grandmother who has dementia, and the grandmother is kind of not all there, and obviously because of the dementia, but is also maybe not what she seems. And that's all I'm I don't want to spoil it because it's worth checking out. I will say it is a movie that is more about its metaphor than about like a story, but it is a good horror film. A little slow. I actually expected, when I was kind of hearing the buzz about the movie, because it did get some, I was actually expecting to like it more. But I did enjoy the movie enough to add it onto my list. I did. But it is a good movie that kind of sets the tension and definitely keeps you wondering like what is going on, and has some creepy imagery towards the end, and actually has an element in the movie that feels borrowed from a book I really like called House of Leaves. And if you're familiar with the book, I'll just kind of leave it at that. It's like a small part of the end of the movie. But like I said, it is a movie. It's a little more metaphorical than I expected. It is, you know, the everything with the grandmother is kind of a stand-in for real life experiences, and I kind of just wasn't expecting that. So I didn't love the movies as much as I thought I was going to, but it's still a very good film. So the next movie that was on my top 10 for a while, but eventually got bumped down only recently, was The Old Guard, which was the Netflix movie based on the, I believe, Greg Rucka comic book. And The Old Guard is really interesting and good. You know, it is a movie about essentially immortal mercenaries. These are people who have been alive for ages and, you know, kind of operate in the world as mercenaries. You know, they die, but they just like heal and come back to life. And kind of the plot is a new person has gained this ability, and they kind of recruit her and are training her. And it's very unique for what is essentially like a blockbuster action film, in that it is not a lot of action, and it is actually a lot more character work than you would expect for a movie like this. But the character work is all really good. I would actually recommend The Old Guard, but don't go in expecting like a John Wick style action movie. Like, the action scenes are really good, but they are a little few and far between, and the villain plot is kind of like whatever. It's kind of your typical, you know, these immortal beings exist, and bad guy knows about them and is trying to harness that from their blood to, you know, become a gazillionaire through pharmaceuticals, and it's kind of like whatever. But I kind of hope they make more. It definitely made me pick up the comic book, and I'm gonna check that out. Actually, I started it, but I haven't like gotten a lot into it yet. So, but Old Guard, pretty good. And the last movie outside of my top 10 here is one of the more recent ones. Actually, I think it is the most recent one, and it was Wonder Woman 84. I really enjoyed the first Wonder Woman movie. I thought it was better than Captain Marvel when it came to like the female-led superhero films, which, you know, 2. Now Black Widow's been delayed, but, you know. Excuse me. But, you know, Wonder Woman I thought was fantastic, and Wonder Woman 84 I thought was less fantastic, but I still think it's a pretty good movie. Just the tone is very different. You know, it takes place in the 80s, and it's a much more lighthearted and campy film, and that's not a negative. To me, it's fun. I enjoyed Wonder Woman 84, but I just think the biggest problem with the movie is that the script and plot is a little messy. You know, it's all fine, and definitely. So I heard a lot of stories about this movie being kind of reworked in editing. Like, there was a lot of stories of like test screenings that were not very positive stories, and it watching, like, knowing that in the back of my head and watching it, you definitely feel like a movie that was saved in editing. But you know, and some of the, like, when the movie came out, people were like attacking it, and I definitely did not understand that. The movie is totally fine. It's good, in fact, but still, like, granted, there's not a lot of DC movies that I think are good when it comes to like their expanded universe movies. But we will be talking about another one later, because there were 2 this year, and it's just Pedro. The best thing I'll say about the movie is every actor, actress in the movie, performer is incredible. Like, I thought Gal Gadot was really good as Wonder Woman in the first one, and in this one, she is Wonder Woman, you know. I don't feel like enough people are talking about Kristen Wiig as Cheetah. I thought she was fantastic. And Pedro Pascal is chewing literally every piece of scenery in the best way. Like, honestly, the movie is worth watching for him alone. But the biggest complaints are the messy story. It's kind of like a hokey plot, but it kind of doesn't matter. But the ending did, like, and I don't want to give away the ending, but I will just say the ending involves, like, people having to be good and do something for the greater good of the world. And if living through COVID, especially in America, has taught me anything, is that is the most unrealistic thing I've ever seen, even in a superhero movie. And the ending was just like a little flat for me, and in a more spoilery discussion I'd have more to say about it, but I'm gonna just kind of leave it at that. So those are kind of the 4, I guess, runner-ups for my top 10 of the year. You know, all those movies were on my list at some point but got bumped down, but everything that came before it, except Wonder Woman and New Mutants, those never actually made it into the top 10 because they got added late. But okay, gonna do the top 10, or my current top 10 movies from 2020, and I would love to hear what anyone else liked or what they think I should watch. And I will say, I generally don't include things like a documentary or stuff like that on my top 10 list. I know a lot of people do that, but for me, for one, I don't watch a ton of documentaries and stuff like that. But I keep that stuff separate from like feature films and stuff like that. So I'm sure there's tons of cool stuff that came out this year that could easily make my list, but sorry, will not be included. So my number 10 is a movie that I actually discovered through Twitter, because I saw advertisements for it, and it was a movie that came out on Hulu. I don't know if it released anywhere else, but it was a movie called Run. I'm trying to remember this actress's name. Stars Sarah Paulson as a over-controlling and obsessed mother of a daughter, and it's a movie whose plot you can kind of see coming a mile away, and it is completely based on the performances and the execution that make it so good. I definitely see this as, like, as I watch more movies this year, especially considering it's at number 10, could get bumped off my list. Although I'm not sure currently what other 2020 movies I'm missing, which please let me know what else I need to see by the end of this list. But yeah, it's very good. It's a story you have kind of seen or heard before, but it's just really well done, and Sarah Paulson is great. You know, it was a movie that I just kind of like heard about through ads for Hulu. And sorry, I'm doing pretty bad here. So I highly recommend checking it out, especially if you're looking for some more movies and it's streaming. It's easy to watch. Also, not very long. So no, but my number 9 is just one of the most feel-good movies of the year, and it's Bill and Ted Face the Music, which honestly I wasn't sure if I was going to like. Like, I really like the Bill and Ted movies. I grew up with the first one, and I actually think the second one holds up better. I really like Bogus Journey, and especially just because like how weird it is. And Bill and Ted Face the Music is definitely more similar to Bogus Journey in its like tone and weirdness, and it's a movie that completely embraces how ridiculous that franchise is, but also does so in such a wholesome way. And it was a movie I really enjoyed watching. My biggest complaint about it is, unfortunately, Keanu Reeves, who I think is fucking great, but in this movie he feels more like he's still acting in a John Wick movie. And like, he has some funny lines and moments, but he's just a lot more stoic and emotionless compared to Alex Winters as Bill. You know, and it's a movie that's got some great cameos, and I like the idea of like Bill and Ted's daughters being a key point, but I honestly feel like they weren't used enough. But also bringing back death as a great part of the movie. I actually love that. But
Round 2, fight.
yeah, it just, you know, it's a feel-good movie that made me cry in a way I did not expect. And like, just kind of love how wholesome it is. Like, there's a whole, one of my favorite lines is, I guess I have to kind of spoil this, but at one point they are in hell, which, you know, hell was in Bogus Journey, and death is in the movie, so I guess it shouldn't be too much of a surprise. But they, specifically the daughters, are in hell, and then Bill and Ted go there to like get them. And you know, there's a line where I think Ted asks the daughters, like, you know, are you okay? And they're like, oh, well, we're in hell, so, you know. And he's like, no, but are you okay? And like, to me, that is the like epitome of what that movie is. And it's a great family film, and I really enjoy it. Plus, the music is, there's some actually good music stuff in there, and even in the beginning, they're like playing this song that, you know, it's supposed to be terrible, but I actually was like, it's actually pretty good. And if you've seen the movie, you know how ridiculous it is and what I'm talking about. But yeah, Bill and Ted Face the Music, really good, wholesome time, and it's such a cliche fucking phrase to say, but I've actually never felt like it was more true than with this. But it really was the movie I needed right then and there. I generally laugh at stuff like that, but it was true, and I can't really deny it. Oh, stupid net. Okay, so my next movie, which I think is number 8, is another kind of, I guess, family film, but Sonic the Hedgehog, which is a movie that was a million times better than it had any right to be. I actually really enjoyed Sonic the Hedgehog. What is it? What's his name? It's on the tip of my tongue, but the guy who played Sonic from Parks and Rec was actually really great as Sonic, and the movie had some like legitimate laughs, and you know, it's a great kids film for sure, great family film. But you know, I have a special relationship, I'll say, with video game movies, and surprisingly, that was one of the best ones, and I believe now holds the record for the highest grossing video game movie, beating out Detective Pikachu, even though I'll easily say Detective Pikachu is the better movie. But Sonic is great. Definitely belongs in the conversation for one of the best video game films. And you know, it would definitely rank on my list of video game movies. Jim Carrey, I can't not mention Jim Carrey and how great he is in that movie. He is simply amazing, and you want to talk about chewing the scenery, he is the king of it. And I will say, all the laughs, the legitimate laughs I got from that movie came from him. But you know, it's another one of these video game movies that does references to the video game in a good way, and I did not expect to like that movie at all, and I kind of loved it. So that was a pretty big surprise. But on to my number 7, and that would be The Invisible Man, which again is a movie I kind of put off for a long time. I have no reverence for the Universal Monster movies because I haven't seen most of them, and I definitely have not seen Invisible Man, like any of the older original versions. But it was great. It definitely lived up. Like, I remember when the trailer came out, and I thought the trailer looked awful. Like, I honestly thought it was like a joke. And then when the film came out, it had like a 90% on Rotten Tomatoes or something like that, and I was just so confused. So, you know, I saw it pretty late. I didn't get around to seeing it for months after it came out on Blu-ray, but when I finally watched it, actually I think it was on HBO Max is where I finally watched it. And when I did, I was so incredibly surprised. I thought it was fantastic. Doing it in a low-budget way totally worked with Blumhouse. And also their technique for invisibility in that movie, which I don't want to spoil, is actually pretty smart and cool. And I really don't want to spoil it, but I do want to say that, like, the look of it, which is a weird thing to say about something that's invisible, but if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about, is actually really cool and legitimately creepy, like works for a horror movie.
Destiny, but I was lost. Which Khan should be restored?
Was the actress, I think was Elizabeth Moss? I always get her confused. Yeah, Elizabeth Moss. For some reason, I always get her confused with the actress from The Ring. But
so I led my heart.
yeah, she's great. And, you know, it's a story about abuse, and actually the actor who plays her husband is also in The Haunting of Hill House, which I watched this year, and he was really great in both of them, and such like different characters.
But as I matured, I sensed that I was no ordinary child.
Yeah,
Kronika's power dwelled within,
Invisible Man.
calling me to a higher
It's another movie that it's like execution is what made it so good. It's interesting that they, you know, took this big franchise possibility and honestly just did it in a low budget way, and they knocked it out of the park, and I kind of hope they get to do more of them. I'm pretty sure they said they're going to do a sequel, which I'm kind of not interested in a sequel to Invisible Man, but, you know, they're going to do what they're going to do, so whatever. Yeah, highly recommend Invisible Man. It was very good. But okay, on to my number 6, which I am, to get this title right, I guess they don't really give you the full thing, but it is Borat's subsequent movie film, which, if you told me a Borat movie was going to be on my top 10 of the year, I would call you a raging psychopath, because I am not really a Borat fan. I liked the first one enough, but I never really got like I think Sacha Baron Cohen is hilarious and a genius, but you know, the first Borat was fine, and then I didn't see Bruno, but I love the Ali G stuff he does and his performances in other movies and stuff. But like, I did not expect to enjoy a Borat sequel, but it was honestly one of my favorite movies of the year. And it's weirdly sweet, it's funny, it's disgusting. I don't know, it definitely my biggest surprise of the year. I'm trying to think, it's been a little while since I watched it, but The actress who played his daughter is actually also just as funny as him, and actually, if anything, more impressive that she was able to keep up with that dude. And I was actually watching some interview with them, and she was talking about the audition process, and I could not even imagine what it was like to audition with Sacha Baron Cohen for a freaking Borat movie, which it sounds like the audition was they just went out and, like, did stuff on the street to see if, you know, she could do it. And I think that's hilarious. Yeah, like, that movie almost made me freaking cry, but, you know, it kind of almost made me cry in the same way that anything about, like, father and kid relationships makes me cry nowadays. Because that, like, pretty much is all it takes, is show me something about a father relationship with his child, and I'm just bawling my eyes out, you know, as somebody who's trying to have kids and stuff. That's just where my head is at. Nope. Didn't think I was gonna win there. But yeah, Borat, number 6. I never would have expected that, but it was crazy. And it's one of those things where you can talk about holding a mirror up to America all you want, and you're like, oh yeah, I understand how that's gonna go, but it's still one of those things where it's kind of shocking to see it in real time. Like when he goes to the fucking cake store and asks for a cake that says Jews will not replace us, and she's just like, okay. Like, it's fucking insane. And I don't know. I couldn't believe I liked that movie as much as I did. But so that brings us into my top 5 for 2020, and unfortunately some of these it's been a little while since I've seen them, so we'll see how much I have to say about them this far out. But oh shit, I almost picked the wrong character there. My number 5, and let me see, let's click on this so I can have the actors' names, but is Palm Springs, and you know, on Hulu. I thought it was really fun, really cute. You know, the Groundhog Day thing, I like that we didn't really waste time explaining it. Like, the movie's just kind of like, look, you've seen Groundhog Day, you understand what this concept is, and they just get into it. Like, Andy Samberg's already been doing this for who knows how long, and is at the point where it's, you know, he's over it and has been for a long time, and that he's definitely killed himself multiple times, and it kind of just doesn't matter. I like that for some reason there is some sort of like scientific explanation, even though it kind of doesn't matter in the long run. It only matters for the fact that to give the movie an ending, which I do enjoy. But you know, it's Groundhog Day with more damaged characters, and I really enjoyed it. You know, Andy Samberg is really great. Sorry, I'm losing. It's hard to play the game and do this at the same time. Maybe this is a bad idea, but also, was it Kristen Milioti? I'm not sure how to say her name, but she's really good. Like, I kind of like their relationship together in the movie. I love all the scenes of him like fucking with his girlfriend that he knows is cheating on him and stuff like that. And kind of the moment of the movie where they're all getting along and all of a sudden she's not getting along, where he kind of reveals like, oh no, we've hooked up tons of times and I lied to you before. Like, I kind of like how that all goes down. I guess that's a bit of a spoiler there, sorry. But you know, Andy Samberg, I think, has proven himself time and time again, and I am also a big fan of like Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and I thought, you know, his performance is really great in the movie, and I would love to see him do more stuff like that. Like, he is funny, but it's also incredibly depressing at the same time. Okay.
Scorpion.
But okay, so number 5 was Palm Springs. My number 4 is Bad Boys for Life, or Bad Boys 3. I unapologetically love the first 2 Bad Boys films, and
Fight.
they are ridiculous in, I guess, bad. Maybe slightly racist, I don't know, because it is Michael Bay, a white man, but I don't know. I mean, that may be strong. But I think Martin Lawrence and Will Smith are maybe like 2 of the best actors to put together on screen, and you know, I definitely would have preferred this movie closer to the second one when they weren't so much older. But I was also just incredibly happy to have a new Bad Boys movie, and I actually do have a script for a Bad Boys 3 that I don't know how close it is to what this movie is. I assume it's very different because the script went through multiple changes, and I'm not even sure if Michael Bay ended up writing the script for this one, although he does have a really great cameo, and obviously he is like producer and stuff like that. But you know, it was weird having them clearly older, but the fact that they work that into the plot makes it pretty enjoyable. You know, they're still both incredibly hilarious, and I think having I guess I don't know much about this director, but to say a more nuanced director handling the project brought out a very enjoyable final product. It's entertaining, it's violent, as I like those movies to be. Like Bad Boys, the first Bad Boys is one of the earliest movies I remember seeing in theaters. I always try to think about this. I think my mom told me when I was a kid that the first movie I saw in the theater was Beauty and the Beast, because you know that was the Disney movie that came out when I was a child. And my parents never really had a problem with me kind of watching whatever. I always tell this story, but I remember going to my local video store and renting RoboCop like by myself. Like, it was walking distance from my house, and I lived in a very small town, and my parents owned a bar in that town, so everybody knew us, and you know, I was kind of just allowed to do and get away with a lot because they knew my parents were cool with it. So I would go to the video store and rent things like RoboCop by myself all the time. And RoboCop 3 I actually saw in the theater, which I don't think is that bad as some people make it out to be. But yeah, so like Bad Boys, I remember seeing the first one in the theater. I remember when Bad Boys 2 came out, it was in the era of everybody's doing CGI blood and stuff in movies, and I hated it. Like, it looked, you know, we hadn't quite figured it out. Now, you know, that's how we do everything. Like, nobody uses squibs anymore, which is, you know, the exploding blood packs in movies. And Bad Boys 2 use squibs, you know, because, you know, say what you will about Michael Bay, that's the thing, is the guy knows how to make an incredible looking action movie. Like, I watched that Six Underground movie and it was god awful, but the action in that movie is fucking incredible. Like, Michael Bay if he had an editor and a good writer, like, give that dude one of the best writers in the business and an amazing editor, and I think he could be the greatest action director of our time. I mean, I think in a weird way he is anyway, because he makes big action movies and they all make tons of money even if they're not good. But I don't know, man. Like, Bad Boys 3, it's really enjoyable, and like, I actually, it's one of the movies that I really can't wait to watch again. including the next movie on my list, which is my number 3, and I'm not going to have a lot to say about this movie because, for one, it's a movie you kind of just need to see yourself, but also I need to watch it like 5 more times to be able to really talk about it. But my number 3 is the movie that just had to go to theaters, and that is Tenet, the Christopher Nolan movie. And I have a complicated feeling about Christopher Nolan. I think he makes some fantastic movies. I think he's slightly pretentious, but has earned it more so than someone like Darren Aronofsky, who is like the embodiment of being pretentious. But Tenet is a very good movie. Like, it's because, you know, I feel like most people know Nolan because of the Batman movies, and his Batman movies are fantastic, and Batman Begins is my favorite Batman movie. But so all of his original movies are movies that have like pretty unique and crazy concepts in them that it's like kind of hard to believe that one person would think of, like Inception, Interstellar, and things like that. But it's like, for example, I did not like Interstellar, but I like Inception, and this movie is definitely closer to Inception than Interstellar in terms of like its concepts and construction, and it's definitely one you just I keep telling everybody about the best way to watch Tenet your first time, and I do think if you're gonna watch it, you should watch it multiple times, is to not get distracted by the details. The concept in the movie can be very complicated if you let it. Just understand that it works, and it doesn't matter how it works. Just take for granted that it does, or just accept that it does, I guess. Sorry, I'm getting distracted here. But the point is just like follow the main plot and the elements that actually matter to the story, and you will enjoy it a lot more on your first time through. And then on your other viewings, you can kind of pay more attention to the details of the time stuff and how that all works. But yeah, Tenet, great film. Love it. Check it out. That's my number 3. Oh, whoa. My controller felt like it was moving backwards there. Oh, what the hell? Weird. Oh no. Let me get that last crouch. What? I crouched. Anyway. My number 2, which, surprised it wasn't my number 1, honestly. But my number 2 film of 2020 is the Netflix Chris Hemsworth movie Extraction. I'm a big lover of action films. I love the John Wick films, and this is John Wick with a much more depressed protagonist, if that's at all possible. It's very good. It's very well made. I think produced by the Russos, or did they direct? Yeah, directed by Sam Hargrave. I think maybe written by the Russo brothers, who did like Avengers and stuff. And apparently they're making another one. Huh, interesting. Oh wait, crew. Here we go. Yeah, produced by the Russos. Damn, there's a lot of fucking producers in this movie. Written by the Russos and some other people. But Extraction is really great, really well made, and you know, it's one of those movies that has the gimmick of, hey, we're gonna have one really long camera take, and I saw a friend of mine put it in a really good perspective, which I am a sucker for the long camera takes. Like honestly don't care if people think they're played out and stuff like that. If it's well done, it's well done. Like, no matter what, no matter how many times it's done, it's still an impressive feat to see in a movie. Like, just because you as a viewer have seen it done so many times. Like, I see people shit on the one from Spectre, but like, that one's pretty good too. Sorry, I like it. It's still really fucking hard to do. And of course, they're not all technically one take. There are hidden cuts all over those things. But, you know, when it's more convincing, even if there are cuts, that it was long take, I actually find that more impressive. But it is, you know, very much John Wick style action, but with a more military aspect to it. I do think all the performances are great. Chris Hemsworth is awesome in the movie. You know, David Harbour has a small part in it that's pretty good. Very simple plot, which I like. And I thought the action was incredibly entertaining. And I do like that it does have some heart to it. Oh shit, I should have did the grab. Yeah, Extraction was... fun is a weird word because, like I said, it is a little depressing, but it's a very good film. Can't wait to rewatch it. I've actually only watched it once. Actually, I want to say, let me double check, but I think the only movie in my top 10 that I've watched more than once, yeah, the only movie that in my top 10 that I've watched more than once is my #1 film. And let's just get onto it, because this is honestly the most surprising #1 I've ever had for me, because I thought I was not going to like this movie at all. And if you're paying attention earlier in the list, you might already have an idea of what I'm gonna say. But my #1 movie of 2020 is goddamn Birds of Prey. And I don't feel guilty about it. I don't feel bad about it. You can't make me feel bad about it. I just loved that movie, and I've watched it. Let's see how many times I've logged it on Letterboxd. I've watched it. Okay, that's definitely not right. I missed some logging. It says I've only logged it twice, but I know I've seen it way more than twice. I've seen at least 4 times. Apparently I forgot to log it. Because it kind of became the movie that I would just throw on. It's just fucking DC's Deadpool is all it is. And I don't know, in a year like this, it's just, I guess, a movie I needed. Sorry, I gotta sneeze. Excuse me. Yeah, I don't know, like, when Suicide Squad came out, like, I thought that movie was god-awful, but I think, like most people, I agreed the highlights of it were Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn and Will Smith as Deadshot. And when they said that, you know, Margot Robbie was gonna get a Harley Quinn movie, I was pretty excited for it, because, like, personally in the movie I was like, you know, I thought she was really good, but she was only, like, to me, like 70% there. But as it is with, you know, same thing with Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman, by the time the second one came around, I was like, okay, no, now they are this character, and she was Harley Quinn in that movie. And I do think it's funny, but honestly, Ewan McGregor is like the thing in that movie for me. He is incredible as Black Mask, and I think the worst thing they did with that character is kill him off, because he's a villain I want to see a lot more of. He's hilarious, he's scary, he's like the perfect kind of evil. He steals the show, almost, in some ways. I just thought he was fantastic, and I don't know, yeah, the movie was just my comfort food for the year. Like, I would come home from work and didn't really know what to do, and I would just throw on Birds of Prey. Which is why I'm surprised it's only logged as many times it is. That's definitely not right. I don't know. It's also the soundtrack is very good. I actually bought the soundtrack and I listened to that a lot. It's actually getting to the point where I'm almost getting sick of it because I listen to it so much. But Birds of Prey is great, and I know it's so easy to dismiss DC movies, and I do think DC movies come under a lot more scrutiny than most other comic movies because there is that whole Marvel versus DC aspect, and most of the DC movies have been really bad, so there's like an expectation of like, look, if they're not gonna make one that's like completely incredible, then I don't care, because otherwise I assume the next one will also be bad and they're just wasting my time. But I think there are good DC movies, and honestly Birds of Prey is maybe my favorite. Like personally, I think Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Birds of Prey are all great. I know a lot of people like Shazam. Shazam honestly didn't work for me, and I think it is a good movie, so I'll say it's a good DC movie. It just wasn't for me. But Birds of Prey is like extremely my shit, and honestly my favorite part of it is, I think, was it Journey Smollett as Black Canary. I thought she was like fantastic, and it really made me want to see her in like a Green Arrow movie. Like I hope they make a Green Arrow movie and we get to see more of her as Black Canary. Like she was great, and her action scenes are awesome. Like she does, I don't know how much of it is her and a stun woman, but they make her fighting style like really hard hitting and awesome. And like the action scenes are fun to watch, but the only real complaint I have about that movie, and it's kind of like the one thing that makes me not give it 5 stars, is the way it's kind of told out of order and kind of going for the Tarantino thing. Like, I just do not think it needed that at all. What the fuck? But it's also one of those things where like, it kind of doesn't matter. I think that movie is great. Whole lot of fun. And yeah, I can't believe not only is a DC movie my #1 movie of the year, but it's fucking Birds of Prey, which I thought was gonna be terrible. But yeah, that is my top 10 of 2020, and also, the other movies I've liked, which, it probably sound like a basic ass bitch with all the shit that made my list, but again, please, like, tell me what there is out there for 2020 movies I still need to see. I know I did a podcast with the Film Rescue guys, and one of them mentioned a movie that I remember Googling, and now I can't remember the name of it, but it was some kind of like superhero thing that sounded really cool that I still need to check out. But I know there's a lot more, probably some artsy films out there and some higher brow stuff than Birds of Prey that I should be seeing. But unfortunately, just like access to movies for me has been pretty limited, and I watch more TV this year. Like, I burned through multiple seasons of shows that I was kind of behind on, like The Boys and stuff like that. Man, what the fuck? I am gonna finish this Shao Kahn fight. But yeah, definitely comment to me, follow me on all my social medias at Advent_Crash, at Shell Podcast, and let me know what movies I should be seeing. Like, what thing was embarrassing for me to have not seen. What time is it? It's 11:30 right now, so I'm not gonna stream till midnight, because for one, nobody's gonna be watching this shit anyway, but this is, I guess, more for the YouTube archive. But yeah, so, you know, the movies I was most excited for this year was the James Bond movie and Black Widow. You know, I love spy movies, and unfortunately those didn't happen. You know, we didn't get a single Marvel movie this year, which, you know, I'm actually kind of okay with, although I will definitely say I am missing them, which is sad, but it is what it is.
Final round. Fight.
Oh boy. There is a Mortal Kombat movie coming next year. I think April, August, one of those two. I think April. Which I did a episode for on my podcast. Oh, well, cool. It's always cool to die from nothing. Ugh. I don't know. Hopefully we can get this pandemic under control with the vaccine and finally go back to the theater next year, because that's honestly what I'm missing.
Fight.
But yeah, I am just gonna finish this. I should have gave myself a healing item, because whatever this red shit is, it's kind of making this impossible. Oh, if I block, does it not hurt me? Oh yeah, doesn't hurt me if I block. Yeah, be sure to check out my podcast, the Shelved Film Podcast. We also have a Patreon, patreon.com/shelved. Have some fun ideas for 2021 for some exclusive content. Oh, that didn't. Alright, we gotta get this fucker. No! Alright, well. At least he wasted his fatal blow. God, it's so extreme.
Final round. Fight.
Gotcha. Alright, doing better this time. Yeah, you did. Or maybe I'm dead. Alright. And that's gonna be it for this stream and my top 10 movies of 2020. I wish I wasn't gaming during this, because I would have just ripped the audio for a podcast, but maybe this will just be a YouTube exclusive, a Twitch exclusive. But thanks everybody for watching, and be sure to check out all that stuff I mentioned.